Have you guys read this book? Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Suzanne. I totally thought this filter was messing with my eyeliner, but it turns out, yeah, I just had a hair stuck to my eyelash. So full transparency, this is the first time I've ever read this book, but I have seen the movie a couple of times, and you know, I mean, if you've been around for a while, you know that I've talked about Valley of the Dolls, and it's definitely one of those stories that should come with a trigger warning, particularly for the book and the movie, diet culture. And you know how they always say the book is better than the movie? Of course the book's better than the movie. Like, this is 466 pages long, and the movie is only like an hour and a half. How are you going to fit all that into an hour and a half, you know? So there's kind of a big chunk of the beginning of the book that's really not in the movie. But the book has been out for 50 years. It's as old as I am. Yeah. The movie stars Sharon Tate, and that is who I want to talk about today on Gigi Says What Now? Now, if you are a true crime fan like I am, or, you know, if you exist, you've heard the name Sharon Tate. Now, going down this rabbit hole, I'm going to tell you, I had to scroll pages and pages and pages on Google to find anything about the life of Sharon Tate, because she is a household name, and we all know of who she was because of how she met her demise and who was responsible for that. So today, let's talk about how she lived and who she was. So Sharon Marie Tate was born on January 24th, 1943 in Dallas, Texas. She was the oldest of 3 daughters, and I mean, she lived a pretty normal life. She was kind of like, you know, the quintessential girl next door, with one exception. Her daddy was in the military, and as he held a pretty high standing, and as such, she moved around a lot. Like, I could totally relate, same girl, but my dad wasn't in the military, but we moved a lot. I changed schools. I went to 12 schools. I changed schools 13 times by the time I graduated high school, because we could never just stay in one place for very long. So I kind of get it. You know, when you're moving around like that, when you are moving around like that a lot, it can be hard to make friends, because every time you do kind of make friends and get into a social group and a peer group, you're moving again, and then you have to start all over again. And that was very true for Miss Sharon Tate, you know, especially because she wasn't just like changing school districts within the same city, she was like moving to different countries. And even though her parents weren't really in the, you know, art and entertainment type world, she did get into beauty pageants at a very young age. She actually won Miss Tiny Tot of Dallas pageant when she was like 6 months old. How cute is that? By the age of 16, she had lived in 6 different cities. 6 different, like, lifestyles, 6 different cultures, 6 different times that she had to readjust. And so she was kind of described as being kind of shy or lacking in self-confidence. And, you know, it may not have been that she was necessarily introverted. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. I don't know. I wasn't there. But, I mean, like, you kind of get it, you know. It can just, after a while, it's like, what's the point of making friends and putting myself out there if I'm just going to have to say goodbye? Say goodbye. At the age of 16, she entered and won a beauty pageant in Washington. She was named Miss Richland. And, you know, people, they would often comment on her appearance. Like I said, she was that quintessential girl next door. And she had all of those, she met all of those societal beauty standards. But then her dad was transferred to Italy, and they moved to Verona. A photograph of her in her bathing suit hit the cover of a military magazine called Stars and Stripes, and that kind of made her sort of a local, you know, like, celebrity. And around this time in Italy, she started attending a school that was full of a lot of other military children. And because they had similar backgrounds, she found it much easier to make lasting friendships. And so, for the first time in her life, she also started really creating bonds with her peer group, and she kind of came out of her shell more. It was also during this time that she found and fell in love with the art of acting. She caught the bugs. So, a production of Hemingway's Adventures of a Young Man was being filmed nearby with, it starred Paul Newman. Yeah, the salad dressing guy. So, her and her friends went over and they got jobs as background actors. So, this is where a dude by the name of Beymer? Beymer? I don't know. This was a long time ago. Anyway, he noticed her in the crowd and he introduced himself to her, and they both started dating during the production of the film. And it would be him who encouraged her to pursue her own film career. So, George Richard Beymer Jr. Was born February 20th, 1938. So, he is about a decade older than her. He's an American actor, filmmaker, and artist. He played the roles of Tony in the film version of West Side Story and Peter in The Diary of Anne Frank in 1959. And, he played Ben Horne on the television series Twin Peaks. Did you guys ever watch Twin Peaks? I was so obsessed with that when I was a kid. Like, I remember me and my best friend, we went to the Dollar Theater. Do you remember the Dollar Theaters? Gen X here, Audrey. To watch Fire Dance with Me or Fire Walk with Me. Anyway, that was, we all had to know what happened to Laura Palmer. Twin Peaks was a trip. So in 1960, Miss Sharon Tate picked up a gig with Pat Boone. I almost said Paul Boone. Pat Boone. And she appeared with him in an episode of his Chevy showroom. I don't know. I never saw that. Anyway, and that was filmed in Venice. Because even with as old as I am, 1960 was still just a little before my time. Just saying. So it'd be a little later that year. She's got her feet a little wet in the industry. A little bit of experience, which can go a long way. And there was a movie that was being filmed in Verona called Barbaros. And she got hired on as an extra. So this is where Jack Palance, he was just impressed with her. He was impressed with her work ethic and her attitude and obviously her appearance. And he kind of thought her role was kind of too small, though, to judge her real talent, and he wanted to see more. So he arranged for a screen test for her in Rome. So it was after that she was like, I really want to go back to the United States. I really, I'm going to study real hard, Daddy. I just want to go back to the United States. And she persuaded her parents to let her return back to the United States. And she was really trying to pursue a career in film. But then her mom kind of freaked out and was like, no, you can't be so far away, and persuaded her to go back to Italy. Because, us moms be like that sometimes. Like, you're still a baby. You need to come home. But then, like in 1962, the family moved back to the United States. And, Sharon was pretty stoked. And so she went out and she found and got herself a real deal Hollywood agent. And he was able to get her some television ads and some magazine print ads, and actually got her signed to a 7-year contract. And through that, she was able to land a few gigs on Petticoat Junction, is that what I just said? I meant Mr. Ed. The one with the talking horse. So she appeared in Mr. Ed, and she also appeared in the Beverly Hillbillies a couple of times. I remember watching that when I was a kid on Nick at Night, the Beverly Hillbillies. I don't know why I was so obsessed with that show, but I was. I just loved that old grandma. She was just crazy and eccentric, and I want to be her one day. Maybe, kind of, but you know what I'm saying. But, I mean, I don't know if she was being held back or if they were actually looking out for her best interest. I can't say. I wasn't there. This freaking eyelash, I swear to God. Anyway, they really didn't put her out for any, like, big roles or lead roles, saying that, you know, she just wasn't ready. And they wanted to get her more experience. So she picked up a lot of smaller parts. There's no small parts, you know, but, like, extra roles, walk-on roles, nothing substantial, nothing that would land her like season after season. She wasn't a leading lady quite yet. So then she meets this French dude, Philippe, and she starts dating him. And this is in like 1963-ish. They had a kind of a tempestuous relationship, you know, ups and downs, arguments and stuff. You know, it wasn't the most healthy thing. Maybe a lot of talks, but they did actually become engaged. And they were engaged for about a year before, you know, their careers just kind of pulled them on different paths or whatever, and they broke up. Which brings us to 1964. I mean, she's still pretty young here. She's like, what, 20-ish? And she meets this guy named Jay Sebring. Now, Jay was a hairstylist, and she, you know, one of the things I think Sharon Tate was really known for was her amazing, beautiful hair, unlike mine. And they started dating, and he would propose to her, and she would, you know, very politely, very demurely turn him down, saying that when she got married, she had intended to retire from acting, and that she was not ready at all yet to retire from acting. That was her love, and that was her passion, and that was what she was going to pursue, not marriage. It wouldn't be until 1966 that she landed her first major film role, and she played Jennifer North in The Valley of the Dolls. Now, her portrayal of Jennifer North would earn her a Golden Globe nomination, which is pretty awesome. And that same year, she was also invited to pose for Playboy. And the filmmaker Roman Polanski would be her photographer. And later that year, she would end up starring in a horror film called The Fearless Vampire Killers that was directed by Roman Polanski. And that would be Tate's last completed film. Because you know why. But let's get into Roman. Let's get into her Roman years, because I think this is really more about her love life. Well, it is about her career, too. So who was Roman Polanski? You know, he was born August 8th, 1933 in Paris. And if you know anything about history, about that time in Europe, you can imagine, maybe you can imagine the childhood that he had was kind of marred. I mean, it was a scary time, right? He went through a lot. He saw a lot as a young child. And that kind of, they say that had a lasting impact on his artistic vision. And probably, you know, fueled that fire of needing to kind of disassociate and go into a world outside of the real world. You know what I'm saying? Like, the 30s and 40s were kind of a scary time. I mean, his parents were actually, like, interned into I can't say that word, SS concentration camp. And that's where his mother would lose her life. But he escaped the internment and survived the war. And he would take up refuge occasionally with Catholic families. But mostly he kind of fended for himself. By the age of 14, he found himself in acting, and he, you know, caught the bug and fell in love with the art. And he would go on to find roles in a couple of films and make his name as an actor, as an artist, and later a director and a producer. And he would find himself a Hollywood A-lister. Huge name in Hollywood in the 60s. Roman Polanski was everywhere, doing everything. And then he meets Sharon Tate, and they fall in love and get married. Very quickly conceived their first child. Fun fact, Roman Polanski directed Rosemary's Baby. Here's the thing, okay. I mean, obviously, Sharon had a thing for a little bit older guys, because, again, Roman was, like her other boyfriends, about 10 years older than her, or whatever. And so they were introduced in the mid-60s because Tate wanted a role in his upcoming film, basically. But Sharon would later say that her and Roman, they did not immediately hit it off. Like, nah, dude. But still, somehow, they find themselves on this date. So they're on their first date. And he's, like, refusing to talk to her. And she's like, bro, the fuck? I don't know, like, I don't know, maybe he was shy. Maybe he didn't want to be there. Who knows? But he wouldn't, like, conversate with her. So she was kind of struggling on that date a little. But still, they went on a second date where he would scare her by wearing a Frankenstein mask. I mean, I can see why a lot of people wouldn't like that, but to me, I think it's kind of cute. Like, I'd probably be down for that, you know what I mean? So, they would go on to have a pretty infamous relationship. I mean, you know, he's an A-lister, she's an up-and-coming actress. They kind of became like the it couple. And everybody, they were heavily photographed and heavily followed, and everybody kind of wanted to talk, you know, about everything that they were doing. I mean, some things never change, am I right? It's a huge wedding. And it was like, you know, the talk of the town, the thing that everybody wanted to be there, everybody wanted to be photographed. But there was like rumors that just kind of surrounded it. Rumors of like infidelity and rumors of threesomes and, you know, all kind of scandalous tales just flying around. And, you know, this girl, she's crazy madly in love with this guy who was said to be really overbearing and over controlling of her and her like every little move. He would tell her how to dress and how to wear her makeup. He actually preferred her with very little makeup. I don't know if that's because maybe he was insecure because she was like this, you know, starlet schmex symbol or what. But he was pretty controlling of her, and he actually described her as a natural born housewife. Now, as we discussed, she had, you know, intended on retiring from acting when she got married, and I think he kind of really insisted on it and kind of played it off like, oh yeah, this is what she was born to do, this is what she wants to do, this is her happy place type thing. It was also rumored that he would like pick girls up on Sunset and bring them home to her for them to have a good time with. And it's said that she wasn't really like, I don't know, she didn't really love that part of their relationship, you know. I mean, that's her husband. She didn't really want to share him. And I mean, I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum. People are into that. That's awesome. Great. Go for it. Do it. But when one of the partners isn't into it and they're doing it just to please the other partner, that's kind of where it becomes a little toxic. You know what I'm saying? If it seems like I'm kind of bashing on Roman Polanski, maybe I kind of am. Because, like, this guy, you know, my heart breaks for everything he went through as a child. It really, really does. But that's not excuse his behavior. Not his behavior towards his wife, who he actually refused to have a relationship with while she was pregnant, and was rumored to carry on with other women. But he was actually charged and pled guilty of a 13-year-old girl. Okay? Like, he was a grown man. This was well after Sharon Tate passed away and his unborn child passed away. And he's accused and charged. He pleads guilty. And then he just like flees the country so that he doesn't have to face charges, or he doesn't have to like face the consequences of his actions. And he's still alive out there somewhere today without having to have paid any consequence for doing that. So yeah, Roman, you were not my favorite person. So that's what I have for you on the life of Sharon Tate. Now, if you want to know about her demise, if you don't already know about her demise, if you want to know about that, there is so much information out there. If you want to go down that rabbit hole, if you're into, true crime, if you're into cults, if you're into learning about that kind of thing, all you have to do is Google her name, Sharon Tate, and a whole plethora of information is going to come up. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for tolerating this annoying lash. Thanks for listening. If you have any ideas or rabbit holes you want me to go down for the next Gigi Says What Now, just drop it down in the comments. Otherwise, be sure to check out my Fantasy Fiction Friday. That comes out on Fridays, but not every Friday, because lately I have not been feeling very well. So, yeah. Okay. I guess that's it. Remember, you're valid, you're worthy, and you're loved.